Hey guys, this is Vid, also known as John Johnson, here playing some Manaless Dredge in the Legacy Challenge. I'm prepping for GP Niagara, and I'm just gonna kind of talk through the plays while I play them. And it looks like we're getting started. Alright, the opponent chooses to play, and we're gonna keep our hand because it's quite powerful. We have a Street Wraith and a Grave Troll. Very nice, very nice. Opponent starts with an island, which is a good sign, and a Nihil spell bomb, which isn't nearly as exciting. I'm wondering if our opponent knows what we're on. Well, since our opponent leads with Graveyard Hate, we're gonna hold on to our Grave Troll. We're gonna wait and try to force him to pop the spell bomb. And we're just gonna drop this Golgari Thug. I wonder. Turn 1 Nihil Spellbomb blind is rough. I'm wondering what he could be playing. What deck main boards? Nihil Spellbomb. Green, blue. I don't think I'm gonna use the Street Wraith. I think we're just gonna take it easy and force him to blow the bomb. Yeah. Okay, that's pretty good. That's hopefully enough to make him blow his Nihil Spell Bomb. Or we're gonna get enough going to really start putting on the hurt between this Amalgam and this Narcomoeba. He really has to decide now. Unless he wants to just try to answer. Okay, so he blows the Spell Bomb. Doesn't get to draw a card, which is good. We lose a Creeping Chill and a Narcomoeba and an Amalgam, which is rough. But we still have a very explosive hand. We're going to be able to discard this Grave Troll and have the Street Wraith. Provided our opponent doesn't have an additional Nihil Spell Bomb, we should be in pretty good shape. I'm not positive what our opponent is playing. Maybe... I mean, that implies he has black in his deck. So... maybe it's some sort of Sultai deck, Sultai control. Brainstorm doesn't tell us much. But we're going to go ahead and cycle this Street Wraith on the end of his second main. And try to get this engine going. Baleful's Trick. So this probably is Sultai control. Just with the main board, Nihil Spellbomb. Go ahead and pull that. Put the Nether Shadows on the bottom. So we're gonna get one of them back. Now we're gonna dredge the Grave Troll. Order doesn't matter here. We have an Icarid and a bridge. Well, I think we just attack here. If our opponent blocks, we lose a bridge and gain a zombie. If they don't block, we get a free damage. Either way is pretty good. I'd rather them just get rid of one bridge with the Strix instead of multiple, especially since we have another one in our hand. Then we can probably get into the graveyard pretty soon. But otherwise, it's just a free damage, so we might as well take it. We're going to go ahead and discard a Grave Troll. Okay, they're gonna get in at us. It's fine. We have no actions we can take. Put the Icarid trigger on the bottom. Bring back Nether Shadow. Exile a Street Wraith to bring back Icarid. Dredge our Grave Troll back. Have a few triggers. Order doesn't matter. We don't have anything we want to discard in response to the Narcomoeba, so we'll just go ahead and pull it out. Trigger our Priced and Welcome. So, we could go for a Dread Return here. I think we're going to hit our opponent first. He's going to exile 2 of our bridges. But we still have 1 in hand. We're going to be able to discard. So that's fine. So let's go ahead and hit our opponent. We're going to be able to go for 2 Dredge returns. Our opponent might be able to counter both of them. But more likely is they could probably only counter 1. So I'm going to hold priority, discard grab Phantasmagoria, and we're going to discard our Nether Shadow first with our bridge and our Dredge return. So we can ensure to put 3 creatures on top of that Nether Shadow. We're going to discard Grave Troll, and Icarid, I suppose. Probably the better call. So first Dredge return is probably encountered, but I'm going to go for Chancellor to try to lock him out of doing future counter spells if for some reason this resolves. Sack 3 creatures, put the Nether Shadows on the bottom. We'll yield to the bridge trigger. This one probably gets countered, but hopefully the next one gets through. Oh, it resolves, wow. So opponent probably doesn't have counters, or maybe he's just planning on killing or conceding. Okay. So he concedes. He has a mainboard Nihil Spellbomb, which is interesting. I'm curious what he brings in. Probably more Surgicals, maybe more Nihil Spellbombs. The thing about both of those cards is we don't care a lot about them. Fairy Macaques might be good because they can both insulate us from Surgicals and they can fight the Snapcasters. Interesting. So I think what we're gonna do, I think I like Creeping Chill in this matchup. I think we'll cut a couple Chancellors for a couple Fairy Macaques. Seems fine. Yeah, I think that's okay. The Chancellor is a lot less useful in this matchup. They're looking to grind us in a long game. I'd rather open with a Fairy Macaque in our hand. So here's a pretty solid hand. Again, Grave Troll, Street Wraith. Name a more iconic duo. If our opponent leads on a Nihil Spellbomb, we can just drop the Shambling Shell and take it easy until we can force them to use it. Opponent mauls the 6. Passing, so he's probably just gonna Brainstorm on our turn. I think we'll go ahead and drop the Grave Troll. He didn't lead on the Spell Bomb. He might just be slow rolling it. But even if he is, we do have the Street Wraith that can rescue our Grave Troll potentially if we need to. Opponent ponders, chooses to shuffle. It's always a good sign. And Brainstorm. Okay, we're in great shape. So, we're going to hold... Oh, well, our opponent just lost. They really shouldn't have not done that, because we're just going to fizzle their Surgical completely. Yikes, that was really bad. So, oh man, this is insane. So not only are we getting an Archibaba back, we also got a Phantasmagorian. So I'm going to hold priority and just discard my hand. And we're going to get back 4 Amalgams. Oh man, our opponent really messed that up. Oh wow. I feel really bad. Now they're probably thinking to themselves that this is really BS, and it is a little BS, but they really should have not just fired off their Surgical like that. Super risky. 360. That was incredibly risky. Wow. This is a bigger punishment than what would usually happen from that, but there was going to be a punishment regardless. Wow. That might be one of the most ridiculous kills I've had in a while. Alright, well we win round 1 and move on to round 2. Alright, let's get into round 3. Off to okay start. We're 1-1. Alright, we're going to be on the draw. We have a decent hand. We have a Golgari Grave Troll. Some other good stuff. But the Grave Troll is what we really care about. Opponent is playing a Delver deck, which is awesome. Awesome. And we're going to discard a Grave Troll. Delver deck is a almost free win. Of course, I'm going to say that, and then I'm just going to get completely annihilated. But no, things look pretty good here. Let's see. Tarmogoyf. Alright, we'll dredge our Golgari Grave Troll. Get a Creeping Chill. The order of this does not matter. Creeping Chill's nice, so it'll buy us another turn probably. I just need to think if we need to do anything else. I don't think so. So we already have a Grave Troll in the graveyard, so no need to discard that. We're probably just going to discard our whole hand, honestly, on this turn. So we're just going to discard another Shadow to make sure it's on the bottom. And we're just going to let it rip with our Phantasmagorian. Our opponent doesn't have any early interaction, and we can just go for a Dread Return next turn. Hopefully we mill a good target. We should. If not, we can just make a huge Grave Troll. Opponent will have some counter magic, but we do have a Cabal Therapy. Let's go to the end step. We're going to hold priority. We're going to discard another Shadow and non-creature first. And we'll just put a Brass Amalgam. And then we'll just do that. There's an argument to discard the Ichorid there instead of the second Ichorid instead of the Grave Troll. However, I want to ensure that we have at least 2 turns with the Grave Troll as our dredger. There's no guarantee we mill another one. But this lets us still have 3 creatures. We really just need to mill either a bridge or a reanimation target. We could probably close this game pretty quick. Although even without that, the game still looks pretty good. We're just exile the Street Wraith to bring back our Ichorid. Then we're gonna dredge this Golgari Grave Troll. So our opponent might be thinking about killing one of our creatures to keep us from getting a Dread Return, which is fine. All these creatures will come back next turn if he kills it now. So if we need to wait a turn, that's a-okay. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Huh. Interesting choice. Well, these will both come back next turn, so that's not even a huge setback. We got triple bridge though, so it actually does not even matter a little bit. Wow. So a bit of luck there. We're gonna go ahead and hit our opponent with the Ichorid, and then we're gonna sacrifice it to Cabal Therapy. Try to keep the Narcomoeba alive if I can. Unless we just see that the coast is clear. We're just gonna name Force of Will and go for, I think we're just gonna try to reanimate a huge Golgari Grave Troll. By huge I mean 1, 2, 3. Yeah, okay, he's just gonna give up. 3 bridges is pretty insane. So, opponents playing some kind of Delver list, they're probably leaning on Surgical Extraction to beat us. They probably don't have Snapcaster Mage, they're playing Tarmogoyf. Those don't usually go in the same deck. So we are not going to change anything at all. We're just going to run it back exactly as we have it. I don't think our opponent has anything we really need to bring in hate for. If they bring in something that we see we need hate for, then we'll do that game 3. But game 1, I think we'll just line up exactly with what we have. Now I think about it, our opponent might have a Grafdigger's Cage. Just in case, I think I'm going to do that. So that we have an out to grab. Well, maybe it's better just to not do that, actually. Creeping Chill at least hits through Grafdigger's Cage. think we'll wait and see the Grafdigger's Cage before we board for it. Well, you know, this matchup is so good that maybe it's just worth it to, like, cut Chancellor. Maybe 2 Creeping Chills for Force of Wills. Well, we put it in our deck just in case. Our opponent does have a Grafdigger's Cage. But if they're leaning on Surgicals, they're just dead. And we even got our Force of Will, which is cool. We have a Dredger and a Street Wraith, so pretty solid hand. I'm going to be skipping our first turn. And we're about to find out if we were happy to put this Force of Will in. If he tries to just turn one a Grafdigger's Cage. No, a Ponder. Shuffles. Looking for their hate pieces. We're just going to discard a Thug and hold the Street Wraith. We're probably going to mostly use the Street Wraith defensively against the Surgical. We probably won't use this offensively in this game unless we need to. Chose not to shuffle, so they found something they like. Probably a Surgical. Maybe a Brainstorm. Well, we're just going to hold on to our Street Wraith. Get our graveyard rolling. We have a Grave Troll now, so we don't necessarily need a Thug. So I'm just going to go ahead and discard Nether Shadow so we can get our engine going next turn. This also gives us the option to cycle Street Wraith to bring back our Nether Shadow, which might be worth it. Opponent plays a Tarmogoyf. We do have Force backup. I think we will go for a Street Wraith here, just to ensure our Nether Shadow comes back. If our opponent goes for a Surgical, we can force it. Although if we force it and then they have Force backup, that could put us in trouble. I'm wondering what they're going to do. Are they just going to stifle, maybe? If they just stifle... Huh. Okay, they're just going to let it go. We might have had to make a hard decision there, but fortunately we didn't. He might just be slow rolling a Surgical Extraction. Or even more impressively, slow rolling a Grafdigger's Cage. But we're going to rip apart our opponent's hand if they don't do anything, so they probably should do something. They have something. They fetch out a blue land, so they have a blue card. I don't know if it's a Stifle or a Spells Pierce, Brainstorm. They have something. They might be wanting to Brainstorm into a Surgical, potentially. Might be their other line they're working through. And there's also things like Flusterstorm to consider. Okay, so they do have a Surgical. Well, we will fight over that, I think. I would like my Icarid. Because if we win this fight, we just win the game. And if they counter this, it does slow us down. But then we're going to be able to force a Dread Return through much easier. And they're at 5 cards in hand, so if they do... Okay, they have Daze. I was thinking about Force. I wasn't thinking as much about Daze. But that's okay too. At least we make them fight for it. So they're going to rip out our Icarids, which isn't a huge deal. We are going to get our Nether Shadow back. And we are going to get a Cabal Therapy. And hopefully without that Daze, it's going to make it a lot harder to protect themselves from our Cabal Therapies. If we can mill either a Narcomoeba or a Bridge, we can do a double Cabal Therapy. I'm thinking our opponent probably doesn't have a Grafdigger's Cage, or they would have just led with that. So that's why I didn't feel like I needed to hold back the Force. Just having a good look at our hand, I guess. Our deck, seeing what we sided in. But we used our one trick. They might be just... I don't know what they're doing. They might be writing down our hand or something. Does our opponent have a second Surgical? I wonder what they're thinking of doing now. They do. So they got our nether shadows too. So that does make things harder. But not impossible. We just might have to skip a few turns trying to mill Narcomoebo. If they get us with a third surgical, we're in trouble. Oh, did they? They didn't exile our actual nether shadow. That is unfortunate. Let's mill that. And we mill a Narcomoeba anyway, so it's not like it really matters. We just need to hit the one Narcomoeba, and that's going to bring back our Amalgam. I'm going to do that just in case. Oh, let's just Cabal Therapy. See what our opponent has going on. Let's go for Brainstorm. I think they're holding up a Brainstorm. I think that's why they fetched out a blue card. Oh, maybe it's just a Spell Pierce. Well, let's go ahead. Yeah. We're just going to go for the Brainstorm again. That is their best card, I think. Daze, Force of Will. Okay, so they're just holding back counters for our Dread Return, which is fine. We get Amalgam back. We have 2 Dread Returns anyway, and we have a bridge. It looks pretty bad for our opponent. They really need a much faster clock behind all this interaction they have. They might feel bad about not exiling that Nether Shadow, but honestly, since we immediately milled an Narcomoeba, I don't think it would have made any difference. So they shouldn't feel bad about that. They do have a Daze and a Force of Will. If we go for a Dread Return now, they probably just Force of Will. We have double bridge, so we get back 2 zombies. Is that good enough? Or should we just wait and block the Tarmogoyf Wave? 5, 8. That puts us at 5. But if we do this next turn, we have a almost guaranteed Dread Return. So I think we just do that and take our beats. So we're just gonna make them use a Daze. Because we know their hand. I'm interested. They didn't play their land. I wonder why. Because then they could have just casted their Daze without bouncing their lands. Seems like that would have been better. But who knows what they're doing. I'll wait to discard. So they don't have Daze anymore. They have a Force of Will and an island. And they have 2 islands actually in their hand now. I shouldn't have X'd that. Stifle. They could negate the effects of 1 reanimation. They could counter 1 spell. There's actually a good question as if we take the 8 here, because that puts us dead to a lightning bolt. But I also kind of want our bridges. I think we can take this 1 hit. Because it still leaves us at 5. So we're not dead to just at 4. So we're not dead to just a Delver. They'll need something else. And a Delver. I think we can pretty realistically win next turn. Or get into an extremely dominating position. Thinking if I want to discard anything else, I don't think I need to. And milling a Narcomoeba would be great. Or another bridge. We only have 25 cards left in our deck. So thinking of stifling the Nether Shadow. That would be very interesting. Risky. But interesting. Because if we mill anything, he loses. So if he stifles this and we mill like a Narcomoeba, one of our 3 Narcomoebas, I think, left in our 25, he loses. Or if we mill a Creeping Chill, he most likely loses, even if he draws perfect. So that's a risk. I guess while he's deciding that, I'm going to look up the odds real quick. So I have 25 cards left in my deck. I'll throw this up here. Why not? 25 cards in my deck. I have 3 Narcomoebas. I'm going to dredge 6 for my Gogart Grave Troll, and I want at least 1. So 57, basically 58% chance. So a little bit better than a coin flip. And then he needs to draw like a lightning bolt or some kind of direct damage to beat us. Is he going to go for the stifle? Ooh, he is. I like it. I like it. The odds do favor me, though. And we don't get a Narcomoeba, we get a Creeping Chill, which makes it so even if he draws removal, we're not dead. And we could take the force out of his hand. I don't think we will attack. I think we're just going to pass the turn, not die, and then win next turn. We almost can't lose next turn. Almost, unless he draws incredibly. We are going to have to block and lose a bridge. Lose 2 bridges. But that's not a huge deal. And now the chances of getting a Narcomoeba are 70%, so pretty good. He drew draw Brainstorm. Really good card. If he can get another Surgical, he might just be able to grind this out. But 3 Surgicals is asking quite a lot, especially he's only drawn 2 in his top 20. Not great outs. The odds are definitely looking great for me right now. He's gonna swing out. I'll block. You lose the bridges. Oh wait, I don't lose the bridges. This creature doesn't die. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm just so used to losing my bridges when I block. I just assume I'm going to. That makes this even easier. Did you draw another Stifle, sir? I think you needed to draw 2 Stifles here. I don't think 1 does it. Okay. We got another Shadow. We're probably going to mill a Narcomoeba too, most likely. We did. And our other 2 bridges. I mean, almost our whole deck is in the graveyard. It'd be really hard to lose from this point. Now we're just going to Cabal Therapy away our opponent's good stuff. We'll just name Force since it's probably in his hand. And then we're just going to start Dread Returning. We'll Dread Return a Flare and then a Grave Troll, and our opponent should be dead. Tarfire. That's hilarious that he drew a Tarfire. Well, this is getting interesting. So that exiles our bridges. We do get a look at his hand, but now we can't Dread Return. Very nice. I'm glad we took the safe line or we would have died to that Tarfire. So I guess we'll say Force because we know he has a Force. 2 forces, wow. And I guess we just pass. We're gonna go ahead and put that in the Nether Shadow to bring it back. Although we are pretty likely still to get more Narcomoebas. We're at 2 Narcomoebas and a 13 card deck. That puts us at 73% chance to mill another Narcomoeba. So we're still in pretty high odds. We'll just block with our zombie token. Well, it doesn't really matter actually. I think I still value the Narcomoeba a bit more because it can block a Delver. Okay, so we're gonna bring back another Shadow, probably mill a Narcomoeba, and our opponent has no cards, so we win. Yeah, we did mill a Narcomoeba. And we'll just go ahead and Dredge return Flare. Hit our opponent. And at this point, it's just the cleanest way to win is like this. We could also, if we didn't have this Nether Shadow, each time we needed it to Dredge return, we had a thing. We didn't need to do a second Dredge return to win here. We could have just Cabal Therapied our Flare, gotten the Undying trigger, and then have Prize Amalgam come back on the end step to kill our opponent. So the Nether Shadow really did not end up making the difference there. And then this is just going to hit our opponent for a bunch. 22. Alright, we're going to move on to round 4. Alright, here we go into the next round. We will take the draw, and we'll keep this hand. Got a Grave Troll and a Street Wraith, pretty strong. Opponent leads on a basic island, probably means it's Show and Tell or Miracles. They play the most basic islands, so Miracles is the white mana. We don't care too much about that. We'll just go ahead and fire off our Street Wraith. Get a Narcomoeba back. And potentially just start going for Cabal Therapy. So in this matchup we want to start taking out their actual pieces of winning. So I'm just going to hit them once. We're going to discard our bridges and our Nether Shadow, so it's on the bottom. And we're just going to wait to discard the rest because we have another Phantasmagorian. Then we're going to Cabal Therapy. It might not get through, but if it does get through, we'll pick apart his hand a bit. Does get countered. So I think we're best just passing. We know our opponent has a Spell Pierce. We're going to go ahead and discard some creatures to bring our Nether Shadow back. Icarus triggers on the bottom, Nether Shadow on the top. Bring back Shadow. We're going to exile Street Wraith and Shambling Shell. Dredge Grave Troll, Nether Shadow on the bottom, rest in any order. Creeping Chill. And we'll go ahead and attack. If our opponent wants to sacrifice their Snapcaster to kill our bridges, they can. Let's just go ahead and Cabal Therapy, see if we can clear the way. Let's sack our Icarus. Monastery Mentor. So we can potentially go for a Dredge Return. So I guess we'll use the Spell Pierce. So we're out of those, but we can go for a Dredge Return. We might as well. If he counters, he counters. But it is a chance to just win the game. So we're going to go for a... I mean, Terminus is the card we're most worried about. So we want our guys in the graveyard anyway. So I think we just go for a Chancellor. Get our Nether Shadow and Icarus into the graveyard. If our opponent brainstorms 4-drop on top, that's honestly not that bad for us because that reduces the amount of resources they have to get a Terminus. And it looks like they're just going to concede. So the only cards we're really concerned about in this matchup are Containment Priest, Rest in Peace, and Surgical. So we'll do our standard package for that. We'll take out Creeping Chill. We'll take out Chancellors. We'll bring in Force of Will. We'll bring in probably Disrupting Shoal. I do want a Contagion so that we have an out if he does resolve a Containment Priest. I think we'll just go one Shoal, one Contagion's probably fine. Technically it's not, we don't have as many blue cards as we like to have. We have 5, 9, 12, 16 blue cards. I think you want a little bit more than that. I think you want 17. But I'm okay accepting that we might not be able to cast one of our counters early on in favor of having a Contagion, so we have an out to a Containment Priest. Alright, we have our Force enabled, and we have a Dredger. Can't ask for much more than that. Opponent takes the draw. Ponders. And we're going to be looking to basically just use this Force against the really hard hate that we can't beat. We might use it on a Surgical or a Snapcaster, but our opponent's probably not going to fire those off right away. He's probably going to start by firing off his hard hate and then trying to untap and protect it. It looks like our opponent is just going to be digging for their hate. Go ahead and dredge our Stinkweed Imp. Nothing too exciting. We do get a Grave Troll, so we can discard something that's not a Dredger. So we can discard a Shadow, a Bridge, or a Prized Amalgam. I think in this instance it's best to go for the Shadow, so that we have a chance at starting our engine next turn if we don't dredge anything useful. I'm thinking about just dropping a Monastery Mentor, maybe? I don't know if we just counter this, we might. Without a clock, our opponent has a much harder time, although if they have a Surgical, we're in a lot of trouble. If we do this, we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards. We'll have to draw 3 times. We have a Grave Troll in the graveyard, no other Dredger. But another Shadow will 100% start coming back. But if we take out this Minotaur, it gives us a lot of time to rebuild if we need it. This deck does not run a lot of threats. I think if nothing else, we make them use their interaction. Exile a Force of Will. Okay. I'm okay with that exchange because we do have a pretty good engine representing in our graveyard. And that is a good sign that they don't have a Surgical. Alright, so we're pretty well set up to go off next turn. They have their Mentor, but we did make them use 2 cards to deal with it, to push it through. And we're going to be able to start making zombies. We're probably just going to discard our whole hand. Even if our opponent gets a Surgical, they can't beat this. If they get a Containment Priest, then we can't beat that anyway. So we might as well just go in. Okay, we're going to go ahead and hold priority, discard, 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 discard. We're going to back a bunch of stuff and we're going to start Cabal Therapying. So our opponent might be considering Surgicaling one of these. Might be why they're taking so long. They Surgical one. They'll probably hit the Icarid. It's a little bit more threatening. But who knows? Or maybe they're thinking of hitting our... Yeah, I don't know what else they would hit. Since we have both, it maybe incentivizes them to just hold their surgicals, but... Surgical is more of a band-aid right now. I don't think it's a huge deal what they use it on. They might go for our bridges. Might be the other thing. Swords on Nether Shadow. Yeah, it's fine. Let's yield to those. We don't really have any instant speed things we can do in our deck. I think our deck is almost entirely sorcery speed minus cycling a Street Wraith and activating Phantasmagorian. Okay, double swords. Well, we have a pretty good shot at milling an Archamoeba. Which is all we really need to just go nuts. And we do. Now if they have a surgical here on top of that, we're in trouble. But it looks like they don't. So bring back our Narcomoebas. We're gonna Cabal Therapy, fish out counters. I mean, they probably don't have Force of Will in hand. They might. I mean, they can't have it. They probably just don't have anything. Maybe they have Fluster Storm or Spell Pierce. I think I'll go for... I mean, they probably just don't have anything. But let's just go for Fluster Storm. Looks like they might just fire. Ooh, he has a Surgical. Wow. And he goes for the Amalgam. It's a very interesting choice. I don't know why, because we're just going to Dredge Return. He only has one card left in his hand. It has to be a counter or he loses. Because we can just Dredge Return twice and win. I think he should have just gone for the Narcomoeba. We would have been pretty much dead in the water. So we will name, I guess, Fluster Storm. It's that or Spell Pierce. That's all he could have left that could matter. Okay, so I think we just win here. So we're going to take a Flare. We get back 2 zombies and the Flare. And then we just Dredge Return a Grave Troll, and that kills our opponent. I guess our opponent just didn't realize we could do that. They could have definitely won the game if they had done that slightly differently. And that's the game. Alright, here we go into round 5. We're going to take the draw. We're going to keep a pretty strong hand with both a Stinkweed Imp and a Street Wraith. Let's see what our opponent is on. Probably Shadow or Grixis. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and pass. In this instance, I think we just discard Phantasmagorian. And we're just going to dump our hand. I think we can be pretty aggressive in this game 1. I'm not expecting main board graveyard hate. Looks like it's probably just a Delver deck or a Control deck. And we're pretty good against both of those. Thoughtseize. Well, if you insist. So we're going to hold priority, discard Stinkweed Imp, Dredge Return, Cabal Therapy, and then we're going to cycle Street Wraith. We're going to hold priority so that we can re-discard the Stinkweed Imp back to the Phantasmagorian. Put these Nether Shadows on the bottom. Trigger Creeping Chill. Activate Phantasmagorian again. Discard these. And now our opponent will just discard one of our cards again. And we're looking in pretty good shape. So since this is an Underground Sea and not a Watery Grave, and this is a Thought Seize, I'm leaning towards Grixis Control instead of Delver, Death Shadow. Because I don't know if the Grixis Delver deck runs very many Thought Seizes. I think they're more reliant on counter magic. And our opponent is just going to scoop, which is fine. They're probably going to be bringing in Surgicals. This is probably a Snapcaster Mage list. So we could bring in some Fairy Macabres to hedge against the Snapcaster Mages. So we'll just cut a couple Creeping Chills, I think. Yeah, that'll be fine. This should be a pretty straightforward matchup. Alright, so we don't have any Dredgers. We do have a Chancellor and a Phantasmagorian. So I think we keep this hand on the merits of the double Phantasmagorian. We might have to wait a bit to draw a Dredger, but we ended up just drawing a Dredger first card. We draw a Dredger every 1 in 3 is kind of the odds in this deck. That Dredgers are basically our lands. So it's like 1 in 4, 1 in 3. In this situation where we already have 7 non-Dredgers out. But we ended up drawing it anyway, so we are just going to discard just the Dredger. We don't want to lean into Phantasmagorian just in case he has a Nihil Spellbomb or a Tormod's Crypt. We can get very much punished if we dump our hand into that. So we're going to play a bit more conservatively. And he's going to Surgical us. Not much we can do about that. We'll just have to let him do it. It's a little annoying, but it's not the end of the world. We might have to go a few turns without a Dredger. And that does lower the odds of getting another Dredger a lot. So what we'll probably do is we'll discard our Nether Shadow, and then we'll just start discarding creatures on top of it to kind of start an engine while we wait on our Dredger. As long as our opponent doesn't present a quick clock, we should still be fine. Alright, so we're just gonna pass turn, discard Nether Shadow, and wait. We don't want our opponent to play anything that's too fast of a clock. True Name would probably be their best card to play here, or Liliana. But if they just keep digging and they play like a Baleful Strix or something, we're fine. We're happy to take our time, wait to draw a Dredger while we build up our Graveyard a little bit. And there is a Dredger. We're not going to reveal that to our opponent just yet. Let's just discard our Phantasmagorian, and we're going to start juggling our Phantasmagorians. That way we can both dredge and pull another Shadow out. Opponent might be holding back a Snapcaster Mage, and they might go for a Surgical on our Stinkweed Imp. But even if they do that, we can maybe pull back another Shadow anyway. Mag. So they can't Snapcaster Mage at least. Let's go ahead, discard, and discard a creature. Pull back Nether Shadow. Dredge Stinkweed Imp. We have some good stuff. This bridge means Nether Shadow can block pretty nicely. We did get another Dredger too, so our opponent can't just Surgical us out of Dredgers. So it's looking okay. We can block and then discard our creatures back on top of the Nether Shadow and spring it back. So it's basically a free zombie and a free block if he attacks. So we probably should just not attack. But not a lot of people realize that. People don't play against Manaless Dredge very often, and they're not very familiar with the play patterns. So you'll often get free value whenever they do stuff like attack here. But we are in the higher up brackets, so That means this player is a little bit better. Maybe he's a little more familiar with the play patterns. We shall see. He might have a Snapcaster Mage in his hand. He might be weighing the merits of like playing the Snapcaster Mage or dropping a Planeswalker. If he attacks here, he's probably making a mistake. Unless he just wants the Surgical Manaless Shadow. But I feel like there's not many situations where you do that. Because he knows my hand, he knows I can just do this. And bring the shadow back. But maybe he wants me to do this. Yeah, so I guess he's just giving me a free zombie. Which I will happily take. Is he going to go ahead and Surgical the Nether Shadow? Maybe that's what his plan was. But we're honestly okay with that. We do have the 2 Narcomoebas in our hand, which kind of sucks, but we still have Icarids to rely on to keep our engine going. Okay, so he just wants to take that. That's okay. We still have a lot of good stuff we can mill. And then we'll go ahead and dredge. Stinkweed Imp. We did pull an Narcomoeba. Pretty good. I wish we had a Cabal Therapy here. We could just try to win. But we don't. So I think we just pass and bide our time. No Icarids yet, which is what we really want to see. Go ahead and grab 2 zombies here.